They called her just a nurse. But when a wounded Navy SEAL was rushed into the hospital, everything changed. Her hands moved with precision, her eyes calm under pressure, skills no one expected. And then, he recognized her. The truth about her past, her courage, and the lives she had saved would shock everyone in the room. Stay with us to hear the full story of heroism, resilience, and a secret life of bravery that no one saw coming. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an incredible story like this. The night was silent, but the air was heavy with the weight of danger. A firefight had torn through the remote mountains, and the faint echoes of gunfire still lingered, like ghosts of a war that refused to rest. Amid the chaos, one man lay battered, broken, a Navy SEAL whose body had pushed beyond limits most people could never imagine. Bloodstained, the earth, the scent metallic and sharp, a reminder that every second counted. He was strong, trained, fearless, but even the strongest warriors can falter. The explosion had knocked him down, leaving deep wounds that threatened to steal his life before dawn. Yet in the dark, there was movement. A team worked swiftly, lifting him onto a stretcher, whispering orders, praying silently. Every second was a battle against death itself. The ambulance roared to life, tires screaming against the gravel. Inside, monitors beeped urgently. Every breath the SEAL took was a victory. Every heartbeat a defiance of fate. And there, at the center of it all, moving with calm precision, was her, the nurse no one seemed to notice. She was quiet, almost invisible to most, yet her hands moved with a grace and confidence that spoke of experience far beyond what anyone expected. Her eyes scanned the monitors, checked the lines, and assessed the wound. No hesitation, no panic, just focus. Pure focus. The surgeon arrived moments later, brisk, commanding, confident in his authority. He glanced at her, and there was a hint of dismissal in his eyes. "She's only a nurse," he said quietly, as if her presence didn't matter. He didn't see the strength beneath the scrubs. He didn't see the countless lives she had touched. And most importantly, he didn't know the truth yet. The seat's condition was critical. Blood loss was severe, vitals unstable. Machines beeped warnings, and the room seemed to pulse with tension. Every second mattered. Every choice could tip the scales between life and death. She leaned closer to him, placing a gentle hand on his arm. Her voice was calm, steady, like a lighthouse guiding a ship through stormy waters. "You're going to make it," she whispered. It wasn't just reassurance, it was a promise. Outside the OR, time seemed to slow. The surgeon barked orders, but it was clear the situation was spiraling. And yet, she didn't falter. Her hands moved with precision, her mind calculating every angle, anticipating every complication before it even arose. For the SEAL, it was impossible to speak. Pain racked his body, but somewhere, deep down, he recognized a presence he had seen before, someone who understood fear, danger, and the fragility of life. Someone who had once stood where he had now, not in a hospital, but in the heat of battle. And in that quiet, unassuming way, the first threads of truth began to weave themselves. Threads that would unravel the misconceptions of those who doubted her. That would reveal courage, experience, and a hidden past few could imagine. Because in this room, under the harsh lights of the operating theater, the question wasn't who was in charge, or who deserved respect, it was who could save a life. And she was the one who knew how. The OR lights flickered slightly, casting a sterile glow over the room. Machines hummed, beeping a relentless rhythm that echoed like a countdown. Every second mattered, every movement counted. And yet, the surgeon's gaze swept past her, dismissive, cold. "She's only a nurse," he muttered, loud enough for the assistants to hear. There was a hint of amusement in his tone, as if the very idea that she could contribute beyond handing instruments was absurd. He didn't see the sharpness behind her calm eyes. He didn't feel the weight of the lives she had carried on her shoulders. The nights spent in field hospitals under gunfire, the countless soldiers who owed her their survival. She didn't reply. She never did. Words were unnecessary. Her focus was unwavering, her hands steady. She adjusted an IV line, checked the monitors, and prepared the tools with precision that could rival any surgeon in the room. Every motion, deliberate, every decision, careful. The SEAL's eyes fluttered, fighting to stay conscious. Pain etched across his face. He saw the surgeon's impatience, the dismissal, the arrogance. And yet, when his gaze met hers, he found something different, something that reached beyond the scrubs, beyond the title, into a past that few could imagine. "Prep the OR, now," the surgeon barked. He paced impatiently, scanning the room, ignoring the subtle orchestration happening around him. To him, she was background noise, an assistant at best. But those who truly understood courage could see the quiet authority radiating from her. The nurse moved with deliberate calm, her eyes never leaving the patient. Every heartbeat was a signal, every breath a challenge to death itself. She coordinated silently, communicated with unspoken cues, anticipated complications before they appeared. While the surgeon demanded action, she delivered solutions. It was then that the CL's memory surfaced. The events of years ago, in a different battlefield, different country, different chaos. A mission gone wrong, a team pinned down, lives hanging by threads of courage. And in that chaos, She had been there, not as a nurse, not in scrubs, but as a soldier, a medic, a warrior. He wanted to speak, but the pain and shock held him captive. Instead, he reached out, a trembling hand brushing hers. In that fleeting touch, a spark of recognition passed between them. She glanced down briefly, acknowledging the silent connection, a hint of a past that no one in the room could guess. The surgeon barked again, frustrated that she hadn't moved at his command. "Step aside, nurse. I've got this under control." But under the harsh fluorescent lights, it was clear who truly had control. Every action she took stabilized the seal, kept the monitor steady, and held life itself in balance. Time slowed. A bead of sweat traced down the nurse's temple, but her hands didn't shake. Every second was a testament to experience, skill, and courage that had been forged in fires the ore would never see. She was no ordinary nurse. And soon, the world, or at least the arrogant surgeon, would have to realize it, because some truths can't stay hidden forever. And some heroes don't wear medals on their chest. They wear resilience in their hands, courage in their eyes, and a calm determination that outshines arrogance, doubt, and disbelief. The hum of machines and the sterile smell of antiseptic faded into the background, replaced by memories she never spoke of, memories etched into her bones. Years before this hospital, before the scrubline halls and fluorescent lights, she had walked through deserts where death didn't wait for anyone. She had been a medic in the most unforgiving places on earth. Nights filled with gunfire, explosions, and the screams of soldiers too young to face the brutality surrounding them. She had seen bodies torn apart by shrapnel, comrades gasping for air, and missions slipping into chaos. And yet, she had moved forward, step by step, life in her hands, courage in her veins. The SEAL, lying wounded before her, could not yet speak, but deep in his heart, he remembered. He remembered the mission in Kandahar when ambushed by insurgents, pinned under relentless fire. He remembered crawling through dust and smoke, the world collapsing around him. And then she had appeared like a phantom in the chaos, dragging soldiers to safety, treating wounds with precision that defied danger, saving lives when everyone else thought it was impossible. Her past was not a story she told, and it was certainly not something anyone in this hospital would guess. She had chosen anonymity, hidden her medals, her scars, her history. She had traded the battlefield for the quiet dignity of caring for the injured, the sick, the overlooked. But the fire within her had never dimmed. It simply waited. Every motion in the OR now echoed her past. Every adjustment, every precise action, was a reflection of years spent under fire. While the surgeon barked orders, she worked with the instinct of someone who had seen death up close, who had felt its weight and chosen to fight back every single time. She remembered the faces of those she had saved. A young Marine, barely out of high school, whose life had hung by seconds after a roadside bomb. A fellow medic who had been injured in the line of duty, whose hand she had held as blood soaked both of their uniforms. Each memory strengthened her now, guided her hands, reminded her that life, no matter how fragile, was worth the fight. The SEAL's eyes, clouded with pain, flickered with recognition. He remembered the subtle movements, the calm authority, the unwavering focus that had once saved him. It was Hertha, same person, different uniform, same courage. The surgeon still looked on with disbelief, unaware of the depth of the force standing beside him. Every second he doubted her, every glance of dismissal, only amplified the truth about to unfold. Because courage doesn't need a title, experience doesn't need permission, and sometimes, the person standing quietly beside you, the one you underestimated, has faced more danger, survived more battles, and saved more lives than anyone could imagine. In that moment, she was no longer just a nurse. She was a guardian, a warrior in scrubs, a force that had silently carried the weight of life and death for years. And soon, the world, or at least the surgeon, would have to recognize it. The beeping of the monitors pulsed like a heartbeat, each sound a reminder that life balanced on a knife's edge. The SEAL's eyes, half-lidded and clouded with pain, traced the movements of the nurse. Every adjustment, every motion, was familiar to be coincidence. He had seen those hands before, steady under fire. He had seen that calm, calculating gaze, unshaken by chaos. And then, fragments of memory surged, like sparks igniting a long-buried fire. It was her, the very same medic who had saved him. Years ago, in a desert ambush, when bullets tore through the night and death hung over them like a storm. She had pulled him from the smoke, stabilized his wound, whispered courage when everything around them was collapsing. And now, here she was, standing over him once again, quiet but powerful, commanding without authority, guiding life back from the edge. Pain racked his body, but recognition overcame it. He tried to speak, a strained whisper caught in his throat. His hand, trembling, reached for hers, brushing against her wrist. She glanced down, acknowledging him with a flash of understanding in her eyes, a silent exchange that spoke volumes. No words were needed. She remembered him too, the weight of that mission, the peril, the fear, and the relief of survival. They shared it still, even years later. The surgeon, pacing impatiently, caught the glance. "What is it?" he demanded, irritation edging his voice. Focus on the procedure. But the SEAL's voice, raw and urgent, finally broke through the haze. She's the one who saved me. Years ago, you don't understand. She's not just a nurse. The room froze. The words hung in the air like a revelation. The surgeon's eyes narrowed. Skepticism etched across his face. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the truth, the SEAL rasped, every syllable strained with effort. She saved my life when no one else could. She's a combat medic, a warrior. You don't know what she's done. The nurse, quiet as ever, continued her work, her hands steady. She didn't need recognition, but she knew now that the SEAL's words would carry weight. They would pierce the arrogance and disbelief surrounding her. Memories, surged moments of heroism hidden from the world. Sacrifices never publicly acknowledged, lives saved in silence. Each one a testament to her courage, her skill, her unwavering resolve. And now, someone who had lived because of her bravery was speaking the truth aloud. The surgeon blinked, a flicker of realization or perhaps unease crossing his features. He had underestimated her. He had assumed that scrubs and a title could define capability, when in truth, courage and skill often hid behind quiet determination. The SEAL, despite pain racking his body, forced a small smile. Relief and recognition intertwined in his gaze. You saved me. I owe you my life. And now, it's time everyone else knew. A hush settled over the room. Machines beeped steadily, but the tension shifted. Respect, long overdue, began to ripple through the air. The nurse, once dismissed, once overlooked, stood at the center, not with pride, but with the quiet authority of someone who had faced death countless times and come through unshaken. And in that moment, the truth began to unfold, a revelation that would change the room forever. The operating room buzzed with urgency. Monitors blared alarms as the CAL's vitals wavered, each dip a reminder that time was slipping away. The surgeon's hands shook slightly, his confidence faltering under pressure he hadn't anticipated. He barked orders, but hesitation lingered. A dangerous pause in a room where seconds could mean the difference between life and death. The nurse, calm and precise, moved with the certainty of someone who had faced chaos far worse than this. Her hands worked like extensions of her mind, anticipating complications before they arose, adjusting, suturing, stabilizing. Every motion carried the weight of experience earned in battlefields the hospital walls would never know. A critical moment arrived. A complication surged as SEAL's blood pressure plummeted. The surgeon hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his face. We need to, he stammered, but words failed him. The nurse acted, without pause. She directed the team with clarity and authority. Clamp now, administer fluids. I need the suction ready. Hold steady. Her voice carried calm urgency, the kind that commands attention without demanding it. Hands moved under her guidance. Lines were adjusted, monitors recalibrated, medications administered. The SEAL's eyes fluttered weakly, and a shallow breath hinted at the possibility of survival. The surgeon, for the first time, realized he was no longer in control. The person saving the life before him was not him. It was her. Every instinct he relied upon, every procedure he thought would make him indispensable, paled in comparison to the skill, experience, and courage she exhibited. Time stretched. Every second was a battle. Sweat beaded her brow, but her hands never shook. She coordinated, calculated, and executed with the precision of a seasoned warrior, the calm of someone who had stared death in the face countless times and refused to bow. The SEAL, struggling to stay conscious, managed a weak smile. Recognition shone in his eyes. This was the same person who had saved him years ago, and now she was saving him again, proving her skill, courage, and resolve in real time. The final moments were tense. The surgeon hesitated once more, then stepped back, silently acknowledging the truth unfolding before him. The nurse's hands worked tirelessly, stabilizing the SEAL, balancing life against the looming threat of death. And then, finally, a slow, steady heartbeat returned. The monitors settled into rhythm. Color returned to the SEAL's face. The room exhaled, though the nurse remained focused, checking lines, confirming vitals, ensuring every step was complete. The surgeon's expression shifted, a mixture of relief, disbelief, and newfound respect. He had dismissed her, doubted her, underestimated her, but in the heat of crisis, there was no ignoring the truth. She wasn't only a nurse, she was a guardian of life, a quiet hero whose courage had saved another life once again. The SEAL, still weak but conscious, turned his head slightly toward her. A silent acknowledgement passed between them, a bond forged by courage, experience, and trust, unspoken yet undeniable. In that operating room, under the harsh fluorescent lights, a lesson was learned. True heroism is not measured by titles, by appearances, or by authority. It is measured by action, by courage, and by the lives saved quietly, without fanfare, when no one else notices, and she had just proven it. The OR had fallen silent, the tension finally replaced by cautious relief. The CL's vitals stabilized, and a faint color returned to his face. The machines continued their steady rhythm, a quiet affirmation that life had been preserved. But amidst the calm, a storm of recognition was about to sweep through the room. The SEAL, still weak but determined, raised his voice, low but commanding. "Everyone, listen." The staff paused, their eyes turning toward him, curiosity piqued. "This nurse, she's not who you think she is." Whispers rippled through the room. The surgeon, still catching his breath, straightened, confusion mixed with pride and lingering doubt. "What do you mean?" he asked. The SEAL's gaze met hers. In that moment, no words were needed between them. They shared a history that only the battlefield could forge. He took a shallow breath, forcing the words out. "I know her. Years ago, in Kandahar, I was pinned down in an ambush. The team was in chaos, bullets flying, explosions all around. And she saved my life. Not as a nurse, not in a hospital, as a combat medic, a warrior. She risked everything to drag me out of danger, stabilize me, and keep me alive when everyone else thought it was over." The room was stunned. The assistants, the staff, even the surgeon, all silent as the weight of the words sank in. Some faces were filled with disbelief, others with awe. "She's saved countless lives." The SEAL continued, his voice gaining strength. "Quietly, without recognition, without medals paraded in the hallways. She doesn't need your approval. She's already proven herself in the worst conditions imaginable. And today, she saved me again." The surgeon swallowed hard, his pride confronted by undeniable truth. He looked at her, really looked. For the first time, the calm authority, the unwavering precision, the quiet strength, it all made sense now. He had been blind to what was standing before him. The nurse, ever composed, nodded once, almost imperceptibly. She didn't need accolades or applause. Her work was its own reward. But now, the world around her, the doubters, the skeptics, the arrogant, could no longer ignore the truth. One of the younger staff members finally spoke, voice trembling with admiration. I had no idea. You're incredible." The SEAL smiled faintly. Pain still etched across his features, but pride in his eyes. "Incredible doesn't even begin to cover it. She's a hero, and the world should know." The surgeon stepped closer, humbled, respect replacing doubt. I misjudged you," he admitted quietly. "I see now. I should have listened. I should have trusted your skill." She offered a small smile, serene and confident, the kind that comes from knowing you've faced death and emerged stronger, unshaken, and undeterred. Recognition had come not through titles or bravado, but through courage, action, and unwavering commitment to saving lives. The SEAL reached out, his hand brushing hers once more, a silent thank you passing between them. In that touch was history, trust, and the bond forged by shared survival. The room, once filled with tension and disbelief, now held reverence and awe. She had been underestimated, dismissed, called only a nurse. But the truth could not be hidden. She had faced death, battled chaos, and emerged a guardian of life. And now, everyone in the room finally saw it. For her, the recognition was quiet, unassuming, and deeply deserved. For the SEAL, it was a moment of gratitude that words could never fully capture. And for the surgeon, it was a lesson in humility, a reminder that true courage often comes in forms we least expect. And as the monitors continued their steady rhythm, life returned to its fragile balance. Proof that heroes walk among us, sometimes in scrubs, sometimes in silence, always in courage. The hospital corridors, once filled with tension and urgency, now hummed with a quieter energy, a mixture of relief, admiration, and respect. News of the SEAL's survival had begun to spread, and whispers followed the nurse wherever she went. But she moved with her usual grace, unaffected by attention, grounded in the knowledge that she had simply done her duty. The SEAL, now resting in recovery, had the first real chance to speak clearly. His voice was hoarse but firm. "I owe you my life, not just today, years ago, and now again. You don't wear medals for it, you don't ask for recognition, but I'll make sure the world knows what you've done." He looked at the nurse, eyes full of gratitude and unspoken respect. For him, she was not just a nurse. She was the reason he lived. She was courage in human form, a guardian who had faced death head-on and emerged stronger than any fear or danger. The surgeon approached, hesitant at first, then, with genuine humility. "I misjudged you," he admitted. "I let my ego blind me to your skill and experience. I see now, you are extraordinary, and I apologize for not recognizing it sooner." The nurse nodded quietly. Words had never been necessary. Her actions had always spoken louder than any apology or accolade. But in the eyes of those around her, the recovered SEAL, the humbled surgeon, and the staff now aware of her courage, her worth was finally acknowledged. Days later, the SEAL walked the hospital corridors, now strong enough to stand, carrying a message. To every nurse, medic, and quiet hero who worked without recognition, he shared his story. He told them about the woman who had saved his life, twice, without ever seeking glory. And slowly, the reputation of the nurse grew not through titles, awards, or fanfare, but through the undeniable truth of her heroism. She returned to her post.com, focused and unassuming. But there was a subtle shift in the air. Respect lingered, admiration, unspoken yet palpable. Her colleagues treated her differently, not because she demanded it, but because she had earned it through courage in action. And somewhere, in the quiet of the night, she reflected on the lives she had saved, the battles she had fought silently, and the realization that true heroism never needed recognition. Yet, when acknowledgement came, it was quiet, sincere, and heartfelt, the most profound kind. The seal, now recovering fully, visited often, offering thanks that words could barely convey. And every time he saw her, he remembered that day on the battlefield, that night in the OR, and the countless moments in between when her courage had made the difference between life and death. In a world that often overlooked quiet heroes, she had proven that courage, skill, and heart were far more important than titles. Only a nurse had been a misconception, a narrow lens through which others had tried to define her. But the truth was unshakable. She was a guardian, a warrior, and a hero, and those who witnessed her could never forget it. And as the lights dimmed and the OR returned to its routine hum, one thing was clear: heroes walk among us, sometimes quietly, sometimes unseen, but their impact echoes forever. The nurse returned to her work, steady and unwavering. The seal survived, stronger than ever, and the world, finally, saw the truth. Bravery and heroism often wear scrubs, move silently, and act without expectation, but their legacy is indelible. Her courage didn't need recognition, but the world finally saw the hero she truly was. The seal survived, the surgeon learned humility, and a nurse once called just a nurse earned the respect she always deserved. If this story inspired you, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more incredible stories of bravery and resilience. And if you want to see the full story, the link is in the description below.